Hi, I'm Donna Davis here with Lisa Reed, and Lisa's going to tell us all about paid search and paid social, and she works for a global agency, but all of us get the chance to kind of pick her brain today, so it's a great opportunity. We hope that you will ask your questions and make this really interactive, and Lisa has so much to teach us. Thanks for being here, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
And thank you so much for joining us today, all of you, and we hope you'll be very interactive with us, asking your questions or making any kind of comments that you want. And this is our first Facebook Live. So Lisa, first of all, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I actually got involved in the paid search industry about 6 years ago. I was working doing more project account management, and it just didn't excite me. I just got to work every day and kind of was like, this isn't really where I want to be. So I found a LinkedIn job posting about keywords in Google, and although I had no idea what that was, I applied and luckily landed the job, and just from the start, it was overwhelming and exciting, and the changing of the space really motivated me to learn and grow. About 3 years ago, the agency that I work at, we took on paid social as well. So not only do I work full-time on paid search, but also paid social. So the great thing about it is no day is the same, and here I am 6 years later, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, you can tell your energy and enthusiasm about it. So first of all, let's talk about Google and some of the changes that have happened with Google paid search.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing, probably the two biggest things are one on the back end, so the algorithm, which consistently is constantly changing. Google, like any platform out there, it's a business. So they are trying to figure out the best way to get people to search, find them relevant content, and get them to come back for a second, third, fourth, fifth time. Additionally to that, I think the ads, they've really taken, advertiser feedback. And what they do now is the ads are getting bigger, the ads are getting longer. So they're really motivating advertisers to take advantage of those paid spots because they're taking up a large portion of that results page. So you're going to get that click.
So talk about how important Google is in the whole space of search and some of the changes like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. So Google is Google. You know, they are a leader in the search space beyond, second or first, we have Bing and we also have Yahoo. Interestingly enough, in the last month, Yahoo made the announcement that they are going to be absorbing their traffic into Bing. So all of it will be served out of Bing properties. Google paves the way and people just kind of follow suit. So I think, interestingly enough, although search and social are separate entities, I think it's interesting because like Google, you have the Facebooks and the Amazons of the world who are also really paving the way in their industries. And interestingly enough, Google, yes, we always think of it as the leading search engine, but Amazon's not close behind when you talk about search engines, especially CPG products. People are going to Amazon maybe even before Google.
Wow. And that is interesting, especially to buy products. Yeah.
Especially, exactly. And, I think the thing that is interesting that I read in the last year or so is that a lot of times people are in stores and price check across Amazon because they know they're going to get some, competitive pricing. So it's really interesting the way that Amazon isn't necessarily just a place to purchase, but it's a place that consumers are doing research.
Yeah, and that's powerful that Amazon is doing that. So let's talk a little bit about the ad extensions, and we can show some things on this computer.
Absolutely. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, Google is really allowing advertisers to take advantage of the SERP, the search engine results page. So if Nike's always my go-to search results because I think they do a really good job and it shows really the intricacies and the expansiveness of paid search ads. So if you'll Google Nike, we can show you on the screen there. At the top, you can really see, how Nike is really taking advantage of that entire search space. So they really own the search end results page beyond just the paid piece. Right there, you can see at the top, that where it says ad, the little green box next to the URL, it shows that that's an ad. That is something that I didn't know 6 years ago. So when you're looking at paid versus organic, I tend to be, interestingly enough, an organic clicker because I know that those advertisers are paying when someone clicks on that ad. So that is also another great thing about paid search. You're not paying if someone just sees your ad, you're only paying if they click on it. So even if they're searching a more generic term, rather than Nike, they search tennis shoes. If Nike still showed up, you then are in their consideration set, which is great. If you scroll down a little bit, you can just see the expansiveness of the ad. They have headlines, they have different extensions. If you see those, those are called expanded site links. So those headlines that have Nike new releases, the new Air Max 720, those are different ways that Nike is taking advantage of the free offerings that Google provides to allow you to really show off your business, showcase what you want to showcase, tell more information to your consumer. And I know, I look at it, if I go there, of course you're going to click. The ad took up everything pretty much above the fold. So it's really, really interesting, all the different offerings that Google is providing that businesses for free of charge, even for local. If you're running a local paid search and you happen to be doing, I think flower delivery is another good one, you're a local mom and pop shop, paid search is an easy way to get your brand in front of people, and you're paying on a CPC or a cost per click. So you're not worried about serving it to unqualified people. These are people who are raising their hand ready for what your business has to offer. So if you scroll to the top of that search results page, you can see there you have Carruthers Flowers, local, they show off that they deliver $59. So again, this person, whoever Carruthers Flowers is doing their paid search, they aren't showing up in Dallas, they're not showing up in New York City, they're showing up local, they're competing in this auction, and it's a great way for local, smaller businesses who don't have the Nike budgets to be able to still put some advertising out into the marketplace.
Yeah, so we do have a comment. Joy Woodson says, I've heard that Google's algorithm changes 100 times a year. Crazy? Is that true?
So to be honest, Google keeps that stuff very close to chest. They gave their algorithm away, then Bing would be able to take it, and et cetera. So when it comes to how their algorithm is changing and what exactly is changing about it, we don't really know. We can just see it in our performance. Does that number surprise me? No. I would even think that might be even a little low, considering just they're always testing and learning options. Because again, as I mentioned, I think people sometimes forget, Google is a business. If they're not showing relevant ads, they're not making their ads, ad experience interactive and really relevant and interesting from an advertiser and consumer standpoint, people aren't going to come back. And that's how they make their money, is by people clicking on those ads. So they're constantly figuring out ways, testing new extensions to figure out what that right sauce is for how to get people on their platform clicking.
Right. And so Joy Woodson also asked, those expanded links are not controlled by brands, correct? Google just populates them based on what people are searching and how relevant the link page is.
So those are controlled by your brand. So you actually add them into your account, and from there to somewhat, Google does optimize. So Google will say, based on this search query, here's the best combination for your ad. But they don't pull it in from the website or anything like that. You can have control over exactly what those are. For those expanded site links at the bottom that were those really hefty site links it almost looked like an ad within an ad, those you can add up to 10 in your account, and Google will optimize. So they can show up to 6 at one time, but sometimes they show 2, sometimes they show 4. But if you only had 4 that you wanted to show, you could just include 4 in your account, and then they would only show those 4.
Okay, so we have another question. This is from Nicole Loggins. Can you talk about the importance of strategy, overlap, and optimization? She says, we bid strategically to position 2 to avoid budget waste and cannibalization of the budget for both out of Tier 3 budget and the national budget.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, interestingly enough, this week I read that Google is actually doing away with average position. In a dashboard, you can see where your ad falls, whether it falls in position 1, the highest on the page, position 2, second, position 3, third, etc. What that indicates to me is average position really isn't that big of a deal. So bidding to position 2, you're still showing up. Now that position 1, if you're competing against Nike, for example, you got to make sure that, hey, Nike will probably own that. But strategically, I work on a lot of brands who have a local activation where the local dealers bid to position 2 and let national bid to position 1. It's really strategic, really smart, and you would hope that your SEO presence, which is the organic piece that populate below the paid ads, you would hope that those then, again, reinforce your brand. You have a good SEO presence. So you are doing it right. That's very, very smart. You absolutely want your national, because they have the large investment, then followed up by position 2, which is potentially a local activation.
Okay, so we have another question. How do you balance bidding on branded and non-branded keywords to maximize your total budget?
Yeah, great question. So how you maximize that is it's all about optimization. It's not a one size fits all. Every brand, every consumer is different. So what you really want to do is you want to be in there optimizing, driving towards conversions. We want to look beyond just the click. And I think that people a lot of times, especially smaller, smaller local brands and local businesses can get caught up that they want clicks. But what you want to do is paid search are people who are saying, I am interested in your brand. I'm raising my hand. I am here. I'm looking for exactly the offering that you have. So what you want to make sure that you're doing is you have a nice healthy mix of branded and non-branded, and that you're in there seeing what works. If your non-branded terms are driving a large majority of, let's say, Carruthers Flowers, a lot of their orders and purchases online, then you want to funnel a lot of budget into there because you're seeing the return. Now, typically, you're going to see branded terms do much better because they are definitely super low in the funnel. They're searching for exactly your brand. They've already done the research. You're already in their consideration set. So while it's not a perfect science on how you are going to make sure that you balance brand and non-brand, it's really about optimizations. It's about getting in there at the keyword level, seeing what's driving your ROI.
Wow, it is so much.
It's a lot of information.
I know. So this may not be that we have some really marketing experts on here, and I know that I'm far from that. So my question is, tell us about the exact match keywords and
Sure.
what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So exact match is a great tool for people with smaller budgets.
Which would be me.
It's great because what you're doing is Google wants to show your ad for their own benefit as many times as possible, with also weighing the idea that they want to make sure they're showing up to relevant keywords. So if this Carruthers Flowers bid on because they wanted to show up on local, pest control in Atlanta, they're not going to show up. Google's going to realize that that isn't relevant. But the great thing about exact match is you only show up when someone types exactly that keyword. So if you only want to show up for flower delivery Atlanta, you're not going to show up for flower delivery Atlanta plus 10 miles or any other long tail keyword. Again, additionally, if you were to maybe put that on broad match, which is casting the widest net possible, you could potentially show up. If you're bidding on flower delivery Atlanta, you could potentially just show up for flower delivery because Google is saying, you're telling Google by broad match that you have a little more flexibility to show up because I want to show up in more search queries. Where what you want to do if you're a smaller brand, a local brand, you really want to kind of condense that keyword list to some really relevant, specific keywords. And also the great thing about exact match is you have less competition on exact match. Not as many people are maybe bidding on flower delivery in Atlanta as flower delivery.
Right. And I think that's great that they came out with that. So we've talked for almost 15 minutes about paid search, and feel free to ask more questions, but let's move on to paid social because this does end at 12:30 and it will be archived on the page, so you can always come back to this. If I missed your comment, I apologize, and you'll see me look down every once in a while at the comments, but I'm trying to keep up with all of those new ones. And our technical director, Alex, if you see one that I miss, you go ahead and bring it in. But let's talk about, so Google's the big player in the whole paid search, and Facebook is the big player in paid social. And you have some very surprising things to me about Facebook.
Yeah,
so tell
definitely.
us about that.
Yeah. Facebook 5-6 years ago, advertising really wasn't even a thing. So the fact that this gigantic shift in paid social and this gigantic shift in just advertising on social platforms in a 5 to 6 year span, that's really, really fast. And, Facebook, like Google, is a company and they're a business. So although yes, they want to create a great consumer experience, they want to bring people on the platform, show relevant ads, they also are in the money-making business like we all are. So I think the biggest and most interesting shifts that happened on social have been about 5 years ago, it was all about fan acquisition. If I'm a local company or I'm a big company, I push my ad out to, 18 plus and they like my page. They are now a part of my organic following and I can just continue to talk to them. Facebook saw that and realized, well, wow, I can't really make a ton of money doing that because once brands reach 1 million followers, for example, they no longer need to advertise. So Facebook then shifted and reduced the organic the amount of times that your organic posts are going to show up in a person's news feed. So it actually drops down to like 5 to 1% of your 1 to 5% of your organic audience is actually even seeing your ads.
That's amazing.
So Facebook kind of said, hey, it's pay to play. So then what advertisers had to move to do is let's start boosting and promoting content to our audience. We have them there. We know they like our brand. Feels really good. They like us. They're following us. So let's boost some organic content. From there, and that was great, but from there, brands and agencies and even Facebook kind of led the way to how do we start to maybe even talk to people a little differently? For example, K Jewelers or a jewelry company. I'm sure the majority of their audience and their organic following is likely women, right? They like to look at rings and necklaces, but the people buying those rings and necklaces are probably their significant other. So the interesting thing too is now it's really shifted from, hey, just talking to your organic audience to using it more as a reach tool. And when I talk about reach, it's similar to TV. You're trying to get your brand in front of as many unique eyes as possible. And not just your organic audience, because those people who maybe liked your page 5 years ago, they maybe aren't in your target demo anymore. And as people are on Facebook and, they're on it all the time and their their interests and likes are changing, Facebook does an amazing job at finding those qualified audiences and really showing your ad to them. So I know the hardest shift has been for brands to move away from engagement and people liking and commenting on your post to moving to reach. So I know it feels really good for like a local mom and pop shop to have somebody like and comment about, oh, that sounds awesome. But hey, I don't have a dog, but if there's a cute puppy ad, I'm gonna like it. But that doesn't make me qualified or a relevant audience member. It really is just an indication that I like your creative. So really brands and even clients that I work on, it's a really hard shift to move away from where you might not be getting the likes and comments, and that's okay. Datalogics came out and there is no actual link between engagement metrics and ROI. So what you really wanna focus on is reach and buying on that reach and brand awareness objective for those who are in the platform. Focus on that because you're gonna see the ROI on that. Likes, comments, those aren't where you're gonna kind of see an uptick in your brand health metrics.
So will Facebook not will not serve up your content more if it sees a lot of comments and likes? And
Not
stuff?
necessarily.
Really?
No. So what they do is if you focus on a reach or brand awareness objective and you have multiple creatives, yes, Facebook will probably prioritize the one that has the likes because what they're saying is it's indicating that it's just the creative is a little better. But think about TV. TV, Facebook and TV are kind of one and the same now. Not that Facebook can ever potentially replace TV, but for those people with smaller budgets, it's a great way to kind of subsidize because you don't have the TV budget. It's a great way to get your messaging out there. You think about every time I've seen a Geico commercial or an Allstate. It's not necessarily that at that moment I was ready to purchase, but then when I was, they were top of mind and, their brand, I was aware of their brand. So while yes, I think engagement is great when you're for your organic posts. It's really interesting and, something that brands and advertisers need to start thinking about is how do we move and keep up with the changing algorithm that is Facebook?
Yeah. And is it changing as much as say Google changes?
For sure, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And the thing, it's. I don't think it's necessarily changing the algorithm as much as they're mining their audiences at a more frequent rate. So, Facebook has been in the news in the last year. They've had some privacy concerns come about. So for them, they've really honed in on their available targeting. But that's the thing about Facebook too that a lot of people don't know is Facebook isn't just advertising to you just what you show them on Facebook. So I know a lot of times people are like, oh my gosh, they're listening to me. I talked about that I need dog food yesterday and now I have a dog food ad. But the thing about Facebook is they're plugged in beyond just the Facebook platform. They're plugged in to how long you're hovering over an ad maybe. What kind of videos you're watching. They're plugged into blogs. They're plugged into other ad networks where they're getting a lot of data beyond just what's on Facebook. So maybe you searched, maybe you somebody with your same IP address, you have somebody else in the household, they're searching. Another interesting thing that Facebook does is they look at your friends and other people who you're interacting with on social and what are their interests, because birds of a feather. So, if you have a lot of friends who have dogs and are searching for dog food, they can maybe think, all right, 90% of her friend group is over-indexing as a pet lover. She potentially probably is one, or in the future could be a dog lover, and buy a dog and have a pet. So it's really interesting. Facebook has an amazing, platform in terms of targeting, and that's why they see such great return.
We are all much more predictable than we like
Yeah,
to think
exactly.
we are,
Yep,
aren't we?
exactly. Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing too is, on some concern, I know privacy has been something big lately. It's, we get free platforms, we get free social. So coming with that is paid advertisement. So I know personally, I work in the space, but I'd rather have relevant advertising. My bank account maybe necessarily doesn't like it that I'm getting all, hey, sure, I love that dress, or man, yeah, that trip to Florida looks great. But I'd rather get that than advertising that isn't relevant to me at all.
So what would you say about, and I know your specialty isn't the creative, but what would you say about how creatives are going? Because it seems like these 7-second or very short videos that people put up are doing pretty well, and they automatically play ones.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
tell us a little bit about what you're seeing with creative and the changes there.
For sure. And that additionally, beyond just kind of moving to a reach play, creative on social, especially that's something that's really being talked about at my agency and really across the marketplace. You have to develop social first creative. Taking long form, just cuts of commercials, although it's an easy way, it's a great way for the client to save money. It's really about getting your brand out there in a way that the platform is inherently meant to be. So short GIFs, boomerangs work really well. Yes, there is a place for video. YouTube is a great place to put your video because it's a video first platform. So especially when you're talking about brand awareness and really getting reach, you want to show them small, digestible pieces of creative. So that could be, Facebook has great immersive creative units, canvas ads where it takes up your entire screen, and within it you can put video ads. We've seen our consumers on some of the brands I work on spend 30 to 45 seconds within a canvas unit. So it's a great way that you can take video and input it into a social, Facebook specifically first ad unit. So really that is the biggest, the brands that are winning right now on social, they're on board. They know that they have to create fun, digestible, social-first pieces of creative. Now, in that same vein, be true to your brand. Not everybody has to be, not sure if you're familiar with Wendy's on Twitter. They're hilarious, they're kitschy, they have kind of a little snarky attitude. That's not everybody's brand. But, if you're finding out what your consumer likes, that, hey, flower delivery, that's great, but they also tend to over-index in outdoor activities. They tend to be hikers. Well, maybe show them advertising that would just be somebody outside. And, you want to figure out how to talk to your consumer, because not every consumer is the same. So mixing creative best practices, show your brand up front, make sure it's digestible, make sure you're thinking about the platform, but also think about your audience.
Yeah. So your main takeaways are really stop focusing on your likes and your followers and realize that if you want to get out to anyone, you're going to have to pay for it, and really focus on your reach.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep, exactly. And I will say, there is a place is once you get your reach out there, there's the opportunity to then retarget people, create similar audiences. So there's an opportunity to, hey, let's create a retargeting list off of people who've been to our website who haven't converted. Then maybe what you want to do is focus on clicks, because that they're already aware of your brand. They're already aware of, what your offering is, but they just haven't clicked. So now is an opportunity to bring in more of a click-focused campaign because they're already aware. The key is that Facebook is an amazing awareness, an amazing awareness platform that a lot of brands are just slow to hop on board on.
It does. You mentioned that it's a lot like television, and I see the same thing because I literally see that. I used to work in television news, and I see so much of the same thing with Facebook, that just like live was so big when I first got into television news. Now Facebook is pushing live. They're actually advertising it, and from what I understand, it comes up higher in the feed. So they're pushing that, and then those are real emotional, sort of story-driven things you're seeing on that. And I actually believe that at some point, every brand will have their own show. And like you said, it's like television. You can have your own show.
Definitely. And I think that is something interesting that we've seen, on Netflix. They're kind of creating their own content, and Facebook is following suit. So they have Facebook Watch, which is just essentially the Netflix on Facebook. They have different shows that they're promoting. They have yet to monetize that. I think you can do some integrations through the show, but in terms of actually putting ads on Facebook Watch, that isn't there yet. I think they want to build up the trust and just build up kind of the inventory. But yeah, they're going to follow suit, and that would be a great place for video because you're watching a video, you're fine with video. So Facebook, they're smart. They know what they're doing. So they're finding other avenues to integrate brands and to make sure, that they're kind of serving everybody's needs.
And mobile is so big with Facebook, right?
Yes. Yeah, we see up 90+% of our advertisement or our advertising and traffic on mobile. It's very easy. The interesting thing I will tell you is that really is about age. We definitely see a little bit of the older audience on desktop more heavy. But yeah, I mean, Facebook, the mobile app is just so easy. And nowadays, everybody has a smartphone, it seems. Yeah. So, that's a way that, hey, you're in an Uber and you're going somewhere, get in front of that person. They're on their mobile phone a lot. People are spending an hour a day on Facebook. You check your phone 6 times an hour, if not more, like I do. But, get there. They're on their mobile device. Especially creating mobile-first creative is a big deal. A lot of times if you are, in an Uber, you just seeing a little GIF or a boomerang is a lot easier than asking me to watch a 30 or 60-second or 5-minute vignette on your brand.
Yeah. So we have some questions now that mostly address, we've got a couple of questions, and we're going to put it into one because I want you to spend about 1 minute on this, and then let's go into what's next. But how does a B2B company, not a B2C, use search and social? I know that's a big question. But
No, so the easy answer is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great platform for B2B. The thing about LinkedIn is it is more expensive than you're going to see on Facebook in terms of social comparison. The thing that people, I think, forget is that a B2B customer is still a person. That person who you're advertising to is still a person. So they're still searching, they're still looking at Facebook, they're still looking at Instagram, they're on Twitter, they're on social platforms. So there is a way you can job title, target on Facebook. So there are ways beyond, it's not just a B2C consumer. If I'm looking for local construction and I'm maybe a wood provider and in Atlanta and I want to hit construction people. What else are they doing? They probably are woodworkers or, find out other things about them where you can then still talk to them. When I turn off from being at my job, I'm still a marketer. I'm still a social and search worker. So despite the fact that, yes, you might not be talking to them in their business minded because they're not during work hours, they're still people. They still can see your brand. And then the next day, hey, top of mind when they're trying to make a decision.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
So job title.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
You can do job title, interest. So, there's, the Facebook audiences that you can choose from are hefty. So, and there are also, other integrations that you can pull in from other third-party audience providers that even allow you to get even more niche and more specialized with your targeting.
Okay, so this has flown by and it's been so interesting.
Awesome.
And we only have 2 more minutes. So let's talk about what's next with search and social. And we talked earlier about some new things with search.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting.
Yeah, voice search is going to be the big thing over the next couple years. Right now, Google Home, Alexa, they're getting into homes and they're there to stay. So as people become more dependent on them, I think that's really going to be interesting to see how that shifts the search landscape. Because if we think about it, a great example would be batteries. Right now, Duracell and Energizer are the 2 big ones in the battery space. But Amazon, they also sell their own batteries. So when you think about it, Alexa, order me batteries, she's obviously going to prompt up Amazon's battery first, and then she'll give you either Duracell or Energizer, depending on probably who owns a majority of the share of marketplace. So you're talking about one of the 2 big ones potentially just kind of being phased out. So voice search is really going to shrink that search shelf and the amount of spaces that advertisers can show up in. So that's going to be a huge shift in terms of how we talk about paid search and how advertisers, how can we take advantage of it? Is it the right place we need to be? Maybe some advertisers know, but some, it's going to be a make or break for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So social. Let's talk about some of the changes you see with that.
Yeah, I think social, the biggest one are going to be those communication apps. So WhatsApp is a big one now. Advertising is really starting, especially as this, millennials and the next generation are maybe not on Facebook as much. They're definitely on Snapchat. I think although Facebook isn't going anywhere, I think new platforms, especially things like WhatsApp, are going to be huge in terms of making sure that your advertisements are getting in front of the right audience. And I think just continuing to push the envelope in social first creative. I think the brands who can develop social first creative, and really that's how they're going to win. We can find the right people, but they need to, if you want them to interact and really remember your brand, you got to kind of evolve with how, the platforms are.
Yeah. So, Lisa, thank you so much. I think everyone can agree that it has been so educational. I love your enthusiasm for what you do. It's just infectious, and I'm so glad that you were here for this first Facebook Live. And this will stay on the page, so you'll be able to come back and refer to it and that kind of thing. So a special thanks to all the admins of the page and to Ashley Davis for really spearheading everything.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone.